everyone, welcome to my review of Michael Cimino's Thunderbolt and Lightfoot in 1974. So, this is his debut film, and yes, another Cimino review. Of course, around about my birthday time, I reviewed, The Deer Hunter, and that film is in my top 10 of all time, top 10 films of all time, in cinema, and it's probably never going to leave my top 15, I can assure you. So Cimino, and I saw that film very, very young, and really you could say he was one of the guys that really just changed my life. Heaven's Gate, I watched it, and I've got the Blu-ray here, and I knew it was one of the biggest flops of all time, but of course there was a re-evaluation of the in recent years that it's a masterpiece. Here it is on Blu-ray, and he made this film, and completely destroyed his career really. It's unfortunate, and as well, United Artists obviously went down and everything, went bankrupt, got overtaken and everything like that, and it affected actually other filmmakers' careers, and just a lot of cinema in general in the 80s and stuff. And but The Deer Hunter, it got loads of Oscars. Widely acclaimed as one of the best films of all time, and for sure one of the absolute finest for me. And yes, this was his debut film, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, and it's written and directed by him. And yeah, I was really, really intrigued to see this film. As well as all the other, I think he's made 4 other ones after Heaven's Gate. I especially look forward to Year of the Dragon, and that's the only one that's not really panned. But yes, I look forward to that. And yeah, he really never really achieved much greatness after that, and not popularity really. It wasn't recognised, and his career never really came back after that. But Thunderbolt and Lightfoot is I didn't expect it to be any chances of it being overindulgent like Heaven's Gate, or kind of pretentious or anything. This was a low budget film, and it done really well at the box office. And that's why this film and then Deer Hunter, it went over budget, the Deer Hunter, and over schedule and stuff, but it done amazing. In terms of the awards, it done well at the box office, critics. So the studios obviously trusted him for Heaven's Gate to give him the budget. But this film, is very, very tight budget, and Clint Eastwood stars, and Jeff Bridges. So it's a very, very significant film. Now, I didn't expect too much greatness, because it's not too acclaimed. Most people say it's a fine light film, or some people say it's underrated. I've not heard too much people call it a masterpiece. So I didn't know really what to expect. What I thought realistically is that it would be a solid film and it'd be enjoyable, because I never really find a Clint Eastwood film where, if he's in the main as one of the main characters, especially not as one of the 2 main characters, where things go over the top too much, because he's very serious, and dry sense of humour. I've never seen a performance where he goes overboard, which is great. And yes, that came true. And so I didn't expect it to be awful like that, in terms of the characters. But yes, I went in and I watched it. It was on Sky, and I think it's a wonderful film. I think it's an underrated masterpiece. I think it's made it onto my favourite films list. I absolutely adored this film. First of all, I'd highly recommend it. But yes, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, 1974. Now, 74 was a stunning year, of course. One of the absolute finest films for me ever made came out in that year. Godfather Part 2. For sure, top 12 greatest films ever made for me. And yes, a great year. Chinatown as well came out that year. I'm not quite as big on that as some people are, but definitely, of course, very impressive. This film came out, and yeah, just a wonderful film. I think the basic plot is, it is a road movie. It's a road trip film. These 2 characters, you see them early on, and then eventually, they come together with these other 2 guys, which I'll get into in a minute, and they carry out a heist, and the rest of the film is the planning, the actual taking part, and then the escape, and the aftermath. It's a heist film, but it's also certainly before that a road film, and kind of adventure. Now, Jeff Bridges, wonderful actor, love him. Of course, The Big Lebowski, amazing, so iconic. And Clint Eastwood, of course, even better for me. Clint Eastwood is one of my absolute favourite actors of all time. You know, he's one of the guys that just is cinema. You know, is associated with what I think of cinema, the good, the bad, and the ugly. One of the films that's just it just is cinema. And of course the main star of that whole trilogy. And yeah, just he's been in great films, many great films. Unforgiven. He's a great director at times, as well as a great actor, and great personality as well. I really just love him in real life. And yeah, in this film, he's amazing. Once again, as I thought, he keeps it grounded. You know, Jeff Bridges plays Lightfoot, and then Clint Eastwood plays Thunderbolt. And basically, he's a preacher at the beginning. You see him in this church, you know, Thunderbolt. And basically, you learn it very early on. It's a cover. And he was a former famous thief known as the Thunderbolt. And, you know, he gets attacked. You know, these shooters very early on. And there's a bit of mystery there. You don't know what's going on there, why they're shooting at him. And he basically comes into contact with Jeff Bridges' character, who is at the same time robbing a car. Yeah, they basically they come together, and yeah, the rest of the film they are, you know, they basically they form this friendship, very warm, touching friendship, and great dynamics within them two characters. And yeah, they're two of the four members of this heist. Very early on, it's not really a spoiler. The people that are shooting him are actually former members of his guys that, you know, his bank robbers that he was with. And there's stuff that goes on there which I don't want to get into really too much. But basically, they thought certain things happened and stuff like that, and he was kind of hiding from them. But he is the only one who knows from that past heist where this money is kept as well, the actual money of it. And basically, you know, things happen there. But yeah, they form up eventually, and these four guys, you know, they do this you know, this heist, which is in the centerpiece of the film. And this is a comedy film. It's a thriller, kind of action adventure, you know, and a heist film, of course, as well. And you know, it's just at times it feels like a western as well. It's just a wonderful film. I think just the way we're first of all drawn into the kind of dynamics of these two guys, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, and it works perfectly. You know, the two the characters, because they play off of each other so well. You know, Jeff Bridges is really, you know, he plays a character that's very, you know, he's not all there, and it's very wacky and stuff. And you know, at times, you know, you could say goes, you know, he's an over the top character, but it doesn't go too far, because he's a really good actor, of course, Jeff Bridges. And there's not much people that could have pulled off, you know, what he done in The Big Lebowski. As well as he did, because it was very out there. It was one of the most out there things I've ever seen. You know, where you know, that the famous scenes. You know, of course, when he's dancing and stuff, but it doesn't go overboard because, you know, he can rein it in. And in this he does as well. But then you've got Clint Eastwood, who's more the serious character, of course, the older character in the film, who kind of keeps it at bay as well. And you know, it's kind of like a father-son thing going on, but also kind of just. Yeah, just friends, and the friendship that forms over the film is just wonderful. I really loved it. Very warm, touching, human. It's a very human film. This, and you know, it's definitely not what I expected. You know, I expected it to be good. I probably expected it to be a bit, you know, kind of something that I couldn't take too seriously. But wow, no, this really is something that is very moving, and I didn't expect it to be quite that much. So, and the ending, wow, that is something else, you know, and it really just combines subtlety and, you know, this out there comedy, but it never goes too far, and you've got just so much great scenes of comedy, and just the way that it's just so funny, you know, Jeff Bridges and Clint together. It makes for such great cinema, and it's wonderfully directed. Cimino just really. This is a debut film, and you know, it's just so confident with the direction, and just everything was brought together so perfectly. Really, I really can't think of any flaws to speak of, really, and it's just a wonderful film. You know, it's very dramatic at times, but at first, of course, it is a comedy and a kind of adventure film. You know, there's great chase sequences, which, you know, there's quite a lot of them. You know, it's been shot wonderfully, you know, with such kinetic camera movements, and the framing in this film is immaculate. You know, it's just even the opening shot is just really wonderful. It's kind of similar to stuff you would see maybe in Heaven's Gate as well, just not as indulgent, you know, as that, and kind of pretentious. But yes, it's just I love the way as well it captures nature, which he does perfectly, you know, in a Deer Hunter, and of course he does, you know, that is to praise in Heaven's Gate, but not as much as I thought I would have been praising it. But yes, you know, he's always it seems like Cimino always was at one with nature and stuff, and it just really is wonderfully done here. And it kind of gives as well there's a harshness to his world in this film, and you could say that in the Deer Hunter and Heaven's Gate. You know, that's what he portrayed maybe really really well. And in this film, you know, it kind of the characters seem, you know, out of depth at times as well. You know, with the surroundings, it kind of got this feeling like you know, like anything could happen at any point, which is wonderful because it just adds that kind of background tension kind of thing, and the atmosphere of the film. And yes, it's very very light-hearted at times, but it is, you know, it's quite a harsh film, and you know, quite shocking, quite violent stuff going on, and as well, you know, very very tense, especially in the second half of the film. You know, the heist scenes are so wonderful. Again, you know, and I thought hopefully he doesn't, you know, just lose sense of all the characters and the comedy as well, because that can sometimes happen in, you know, final acts and stuff of a film. But no, what he wonderfully done here was keep up the comedy, keep up the character moments, and you know, just never lose focus of these characters, just the relationships and stuff, and the character development in this film is wonderful. I absolutely think the writing is just stunning. Of course, Cimino wrote the film, and what brilliant script. Just works so well. The characters, you know, they're very very unique. They stand out, but they're all, you know, they're so relatable, and just so enjoyable to watch together. And there's so many scenes, just peaceful scenes and stuff, where there's great exposition, where they kind of sit together, or they're in the car, and just very very touching stuff. And I just really really felt for these characters and the relationship. Really wanted to make it out at the end, and I won't say what happens with the heist at all. You know, I'm not going to ruin the film, but of course, you know, heists don't always go according to plan. You know, but yeah, you know, the actual heist itself, as I say, is so wonderfully done, and the build up is perfect as well when they get the stuff, you know, kind of items, and they kind of discuss how they're going to go about, you know, doing this heist. And then, of course, the aftermath couldn't be any better. Some of the most powerful stuff of the film is in the final act, and I just think it's wonderful. You know, the actual other characters as well that are with with the two are really great as well. You know, it had a lot of comedy. I did care about these characters as well, even though at the beginning they're trying to shoot Clint Eastwood, you know, his character Thunderbolt, and they are chasing him for the early parts of the film. But yes, you know, I did feel for these characters. I did really like all the characters in the film. As well, you've got some other great moments with just some minor characters, background characters as well. The cinematography is just stunning. As I said, the way he captures nature, you know, the landscape shots. It doesn't seem like a first-time director at all. You know, it doesn't feel like you know, just because it's low budget, it does not feel like it's an amateur film at all. Of course, he's got the grittiness of it still, but it never feels amateur, or, you know, poorly shot or anything like that. It's wonderful, you know. It's so alive as well. This film is very energetic, but as well, you know, it's got these shots and these, you know, these long takes and stuff. But it works perfectly. It's not off-putting. It's not, you know, it doesn't break the flow of the film. The editing is wonderful. You know, just stunning, and just every act is just kind of perfect, really. I think this is really a quite flawless film, for sure a masterpiece, and I loved everything about the film. You know, it's not as long as, of course, the Deer Hunter and Heaven's Gate. You know, it's not big epic, but I still managed to care so much about these characters and the relationships, and of course it's a much smaller group of people than, say, with Deer Hunter and Heaven's Gate, so easier to kind of get all the character development in there. You know, it's nowhere near as good as The Deer Hunter. If someone asked me, is it on form with that? No, of course not. But most films aren't for me. You know, it's nothing really close to that. But it is on my favourite films list. I adored the film, and you know, as I say, I loved everything about the film. You know, it would obviously achieve cinematic, just something else with The Deer Hunter, and of course his career. You know, I'll definitely be reviewing all of his films, you know, on this channel, including. Yes, I'll probably review Heaven's Gate, but it won't be anytime soon, I don't think, because it's a struggle for me. You know, I don't like the film, but yes, I will probably review that and stuff. And but you know, of course, his career just went out of control after that, and unfortunate, of course, you know. But you know, what happened there, and you know, all the kind of things that happened with Heaven's Gate. But it's very, very complex what happened there, and I'll get into that in the review as well, definitely. But this film, you know, for a debut film, directorial debut, as you know, and as a writer as well, it's a stunner, a real masterpiece. Definitely, you've got to check this out. It's really stunning. If you like, as well, you know, Clint Eastwood, of course, as well, Jeff Bridges. But you know, it's a really underrated film. Definitely, it's going to go on my underrated films list. That's a kind of series I'll be doing at some point as well. But yes, it's a really underrated film and an underrated masterpiece of that. 100%. And it's not far off of 100% plus, tier 3 actually. I think this could be in my top 200. It's extremely, extremely high. Didn't expect it. You know, it's a hilarious film, but it's also very, very touching, and something that I got connected to on every level, really. I loved, of course, the scenery and everything as well. Cimino always has great scenery, of course, locations in his films. And just the energy of the film, the wit, the flow of it, and the depth as well. Very, very deep film, full of humanity, and just in terms of cinematography, direction in general, editing, you know, all the action, everything is thrilling. It's just a wonderful film that builds and builds, and then you know you've got that very, very just emotional ending. You know, really, really something else. Blew me away, really. You know, as I say, it's close to my plus tiers. And if you've not seen this film, I highly recommend it. You probably won't be disappointed. A very, very underlooked film, and you know, I think more people have seen it now. You know, now that of course with the Deer Hunter as well, it's grown over time. Heaven's Gate, of course, getting a re-evaluation, so people are more checking out the rest of his films, you know, especially this one. But yeah, I just think it's a stunning film, and Cimino, even more respect for that director, because now there's 2 films that were my favourite films list by him, and of course The Deer Hunter is, you know, in my top 10, so there's not much high praise I can give for someone who's made a film that's in my top 10 or even top 20. But yes, wonderful, wonderful film. Just it's got everything really, and yeah, it's just a wonderful, you know, adventure film as well, and yeah, just really moved me, and just stunning film. So yeah, thanks for watching my review, and yeah, I will be reviewing definitely be reviewing the rest of Cimino's films. You know, I can't say when I'll be watching Heaven's Gate. Maybe a couple of months or so, but I'll definitely be as well watching you know, Year of the Dragon, all them ones, and seeing them, because even if they are panned, you know, I that doesn't always, you know, I would always check a film out by a director, even if it's panned, that I'm interested in. Just the way it is, because you know, I don't always agree. Example, The Village by Shyamalan. See what I think of that film, you know, and that's really quite panned when I do my Shyamalan series before Glass comes out. But yes, you know, I urge anyone to check this film out, and yeah, can't wait to check out the rest of his films. So thanks for watching my review of Cimino's masterpiece, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.